Yes, sir. Give thanks, you know. Welcome to another episode of the Perfect Balance Trad Class, a place where conscious and like-minded individuals are guided towards the full realization of their true potential through collective reasoning. Today we have with us Okavango, we have Yaga, aka Teacher Ma'at, we have Bingi, and we
Thanks,
have
man.
with us Dada. I believe we'll be joined by Brother Dulani as well, which we're looking forward to that. And we are the Perfect Balance Trad Class. Welcome to those who are tuned in. Remember to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification button. That means as soon as we upload a video, you'll be aware, especially with the lives, you will know when we're on live so you can join and be a part of the discussion. Remember as well, if you want to be an active part of the discussion, all you need to do is just send us your information, your contact information, so we can send you the link so you could be a part of the discussion. And we welcome that as well, because that was one of the primary focuses that we had for the gaining the ability to do the lives, is actually having our family, our trad classers, our tradders, being actively involved in the discussion, because we want your views as well. We're interested in hearing your views as well. And we are eager to, put a face sometimes to the names as well. You see it? So, we had a little discussion recently about stuff that's going on in terms of the sporting arena in Africa. And today we want to speak about a very historic occurrence in Africa and corrective steps that are currently being taken now, which are overdue, we might add. So I'm going to turn over to Bingy now so he can let us know what the discussion today is going to be about.
Yeah, greetings.
Yeah.
So this week I ran across a story, and the headline is Belgium orders ex-diplomat to stand trial for 1961 murder of Congo's Lumumba. Now we are speaking about Patrice Lumumba. I'm just gonna read part of the article so we all on the same page. Brussels, March 17. A Brussels court on Tuesday ordered a former high profile Belgian diplomat to stand trial over the assassination of Patrice Lumumba, the first prime minister of Congo, in a final attempt to shed light on the still murky circumstances surrounding his murder. Lumumba, who became prime minister of the country now called the Democratic Republic of Congo upon its independence from Belgium in 1960, was ousted from power just months later and killed by Belgium-backed secessionist rebels on January 16th, 1961. So that's a gist. Now, Patrice Lumumba for a lot of I and I is this hero, is this rebel, is this fighter, is this educator, is this man who rises from nowhere and becomes the first prime minister and fighting the Belgians, right? Fighting for African identity, fighting for all that he saw that belonged to them, how to get away from this colonial system. I know for all of I and I, we are passionate about Patrice Lumumba and what he represents in Pan Africanism, most of all, what he stood for. Is that's why I and I right now, we write in on these platforms, these ideologies that these men represented, because they represented these ideologies in the flesh. So that's why they become important to us. I want to say for any of the I and I, jump in, man, because I know it's enough passion here.
Yes,
Yeah,
I.
man, we give thanks for a person like
Yes,
Patrice
I.
Lumumba, because they
Yes,
conceptualized this idea of Pan-Africanism and Africans standing up for their rights and their liberties and their sovereignty. So we give thanks for the ancients like those, you know. In the article, Bingi, was
Mhm.
the diplomat named?
Yeah, so in the article, um, it goes on to tell um, who it is.
Okay. And what role he played?
Yeah. So, all right. So, a Belgian parliamentary investigation into Lumumba's killing concluded in 2002 that Belgium was morally responsible for his death. So they take in that responsibility. But the trial of 93-year-old Count Count Etienne Davenon, a former EU commissioner who was a junior diplomat at the time, constitutes the first prosecution related to the murder. So he was a junior diplomat at the time that Lumumba was assassinated and implicated in the assassination of Lumumba.
Okay. Well, it's a good thing. All I can say is a good thing that murder doesn't have a statute of limitations.
Yeah, yeah, it,
Because
it doesn't.
if
But
it had a statute of limitation, this case would have been gone.
yes,
All right.
yes.
I want to look on the history of how we reached to this stage, because these people are some of the most dreadful and wickedest people you'll find on the planet Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Which
And we
people?
are the planet HURT, because
Yeah.
I saw them a deal with the earth and I saw them a deal with the people.
Mm.
You see what I
Which
say?
people?
So King
Which people?
Leopold,
Okay.
the
Mm-hmm.
Belgians,
Mm-hmm.
brother, King
The
Leopold, we are
Belgians.
take it from King Leopold, make the people
Yeah,
let me
man.
know how wicked him is, brother.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Because when the man moved into Belgium, or Congo at the time, and the man moved into Congo, the man go in on a
Zaire.
humanitarian basis, Zaire, they move in on a humanitarian basis where them say them a bring freedom and them a bring
And,
help and them a
and
bring aid to the people,
allegedly.
Mm-hmm.
which was nothing of the sort. And them ravage villages, them destroy family. What genocide and ecocide they haven't committed, haven't existed in a them time, the brother.
Mm-hmm.
And them form militias against the people and use the own people against them. And other black Africans in the struggle against the people them same way.
Mm-hmm.
See? And in the time, brother, it was said about half of the population was decimated and eradicated through by cutting off people's limbs, cutting off their hand, their feet if they can't afford to give anything. So people have to realize and know that these are the atrocities that were done on our people. And there is no forgiveness for these people. They have to pay for the crimes that they have committed. And the
Mm-hmm.
junior diplomat is taking the fall for that. Whatever role he play, that doesn't go far enough for I and I. That does not go far enough for I and I. And we have to realize that the USA was also complicit in this as well. Because they were the ones who issued the order. And when them free him out of the jail because they want to do what they want to do, they want to make it look like, say, an accident committed. And we have to tell the people how them deal with the body, and how this crime was committed, so them know, the atrocity that was done, because people in this generation and this time might not be aware of the circumstance and the situation surrounded. But them people are wicked, brother. The whole of them.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember, they were fighting among themselves, and them decide to share up a land, among themselves so that they don't have to fight among themselves again. And each person take a controlling stake in a different part of the land after them draw the boundary in a Berlin conference. So we have to make the people them know them thing the Rasta.
Absolutely. But we want to highlight Patrice too, and just who he was too, right? Like even from his birth to his education to his rise then, right? We wanted that's what's significant for us. So like the I said, he knew what he had to fight against, right? He was fighting against a system that was established by King Leopold II. So he was fighting all of that. He was fighting everything that he knew to be inhumane against Africans. And that's why he became significant. That's why they had to remove him. And when you think back in history, a lot of African leaders, it was mass killing of African leaders during that period of time too. We could name many leaders, whether it's Martin Luther or Malcolm, or you could go all over the world and look at leaders dying in this period. It was like a mass killing of African minds, like eradication, when you
Yeah,
put the
and that was by
timeline
design
together.
too. That was
Yeah,
by design too,
by
because
design.
in that era of time, in that scope of time, the ideology of African liberation, it was like it was like I don't want to use the word trending, but I think probably trending is a word where they would understand more
Right.
in current terms. But this was the popular movement of the time. You understand? So
Yep.
they saw this as a major threat, and to solve this problem, to get rid of this threat, their thing was get rid of the heads of these movements so we can slow this down. So
Hmm.
that's one of the things.
Yeah, man. Respect everyone. Respect great
Yes, sir.
ones.
Welcome, brother
Yeah,
Delany.
Yes.
Dulani.
Hail,
Guidance and
Brother
protection.
Lulani.
Yes, great discussion, man. Yes.
Yes.
To kind of illuminate some more on that particular perspective, at that time there was a general global uprising of indigenous people.
Yes,
It
sir.
was a
Hmm.
global trend, as you would say, at that time. And the people them was now fighting and demanding for their freedom from colonialism,
Yes, sir.
because
Hmm.
they just come out of a war, World War II, that they created and fight amongst themselves. And the imperial and the colonial powers them was weakened, and it provided an opportunity for indigenous and colonized people to rise up and demand their own freedom in that process. So I think it was the weakening state of imperialism at the time that gave the opportunity for African people now to begin to move. People in Asia began to move. People in Latin America and the Afrobean begin to move to demand their own freedom and now a
Right.
place at the United Nations, a seat at the table, you know.
Right.
Hmm.
And it was
Right.
very
Right.
hopeful at the time that these international agreement would be binding for years and years to come. But we live in a time
Unfortunately.
when all those things has been overturned. All that
Hmm.
work. So yes, my brother, just to add a little bit to that
Yes,
perspective.
sir. So in terms of the Yaga, in terms of the before we even go to that aspect of it, Okavango, you want to touch a little bit on the history of Patrice Lumumba in terms of his contribution to the Pan African movement.
Go to your friend. Not this.
We
All
will
right,
make
me I'll
Brother
share a
Delany,
little.
All right.
we will make Brother
Let-
Delany touch on the history of Patrice Lumumba then, because we make Yaga talk about the atrocities what him face, because him seem very passionate about that aspect of it.
I mean,
So, brother Delany, if you want to talk a little bit about the history of Patrice Lumumba and his
well,
contribution to the Pan
the
African movement, and
the,
then
the,
Yaga
the,
will
the
talk about the atrocities what him face.
yeah, the reality is that Lumumba tenure or leadership didn't last long. He rose, he came out of the anti-colonial struggle. I mean, he was a part of the movement towards, a rapid development, industrialization, immunization, education. When Patrick Lumumba took over Congo, I think 80% of the people were uneducated or you know, and no literacy. The industry of the economy was practically non-existent, because the whole economy and country was designed for extracting wealth. It was the roads, the railway, the ports was all about extracting and bringing in finished goods to the people, and was the economy. So it was a closed loop economy that the colonialists them created. When he came to power, he tried to move to stop those things, and it didn't last. Within I think was it 6 months, Yaga? I think
Three
A
months.
little
3
longer.
months.
3 months.
3 months. See, they didn't last 3 months, and them eliminate him. But he became a symbol, became a martyr to the rest of the global African movement now, and became a symbol of resistance, radical changes, and so forth like that. So Patrice Lumumba is significant in that. He became an icon of resistance, icon for radical transformation of African economy. So that is how I would frame
Yes,
Patrice
sir.
Lumumba.
Yeah, man. His contribution.
Yes.
Great,
Yes, sir.
great.
Yeah, Yaga. So you want to tell us a little bit about the
Yeah,
atrocities
man.
that we got you now?
So I go on, you must have heard about Einchanova, US Secretary of State at the time. And them a reason in a meeting and them tell the guy named Allen Dulles that somebody need to take out this guy, because whatever, but them just attack. And the youth take it as an order. So now the US and the Belgian, them come to an agreement and use the puppet Mobutu, because Mobutu was the opposition in opposition at the time. So them tell Mobutu to let him out of house arrest so them could arrest him and throw him in a prison. So when them throw him in when them let him out, them take him and fly him to Katanga because they want to put him in a prison. And that is where the guy now who commit the atrocity, where they melt him body in a acid, brother. Them dissolve him body in a acid. They couldn't find nothing from him body. The only thing them take from it, and gold teeth, brother, when them return in 2022, them return it to his family. That is so
Brutal.
wicked. That is how brutal these people were. And that is why we are saying that this does not go far enough, because it should have gone straight to the monarch, straight to the authority of the country, not a junior diplomat who is 93-year-old when they have no use. What time am I going to serve in a prison? What prison am I going to do to him?
If he make it, Yaga, if he make it, the trial
what I
might
say?
take 3 years. The trial alone will take 3 years. So,
Rasta no.
yeah.
But
Slow
that
ways
is
of
the degree.
justice.
The thing is, what I really love about this trial that is going to take place right now, there's a sentiment out there that we black people should just forget about our trauma, like it happened in the past, and we should just forget about
Move
it.
on.
Yeah, we just move on from it. It happened, and we're not living in that time right now. So we should just move on
Get
and live
over it.
in this time. You're right.
Get over
Get
it.
over it. Yeah, so when we see this now, we're happy. Me personally, I'm glad to say it has gone and we don't business or whole meeting. It could be 109. We want to have a child, and if I have 1 day spend in prison, we're satisfied. You know, you understand? Because we need justice. We've been a crisis, we need justice. And without justice, you know what I mean, we're not going away. You know what I mean? We not just want peace, we want justice. And that justice are going to make we move from one state of the condition where we're in to another state. You know what I mean? Because we need justice. We see other groups. We see other groups. We see we can name the Jewish people for the atrocity that they face. They are still coming to this day looking for people who they think and putting them on trial and sending them to jail, who they think helped or was assisted in their atrocity. You know what I mean? We see a whole
And them get reparations.
Them take reparation when we talk about them like people on trial who were former Nazis or who helped Nazis. You know what I mean? They might look for them and them put cases together to send these people to jail. You know what I mean? We are talking about how long was that? Even long before Lumumba was murdered. Imagine. Them still look for people same way. So you know what I mean?
Still hunt them to this very day. Them hunt them.
Them still hunt them. Still hunt them and I send them to prison. So once them catch them, I send them to prison.
Dr. Amos Wilson.
Like from the 40s, from the 1940s, and we are talking about Lumumba was in the 60s. So we can them keep and look for them same way, look for them. Send them to jail.
All South America there, in any little quarters, them find them, drag them out.
Anyway, them on. Anyway, them there, and a few old ladies, we're not sorry for them because them never sorry for him. They never sorry for him.
Same way.
You know what I'm saying?
Dr. Amos Wilson, you know.
But here's the problem, right? The good thing is we highlight Patrice Lumumba all the while, right? Because as Pan-Africanists, that is our responsibility. The problem still remains, you know, is like a token eye, because the rest of them who was probably more responsible, all of them dead already. Them dead and gone. So them live them lives, commit all these atrocities, and then they throw a man who is 93 years old, right? It's still an injustice going on, you know. Yes. The injustice is we'll give them when we want to. Not because it is right, you know. It's when we want to.
But Benji, I wouldn't say that, you know. I wouldn't say that because Pan-Africanists and people who know that an atrocity was committed was pushing for it all the time and pushing for this. So this is a win for those people who were pushing for it, because people were you know what I mean, actively pushing for these people to be tried. And now we get to a stage now where we are get one to go on trial. And you know what I mean? And if not here, you spend you know what I mean? Him crimes in that jail or somewhere. Yeah. We got to give thanks same way.
Listen, we will be happy about it. My point still is, even though we are ecstatic about it, we still not getting this. These are token symbolistic actions by governments, right?
True.
That's what they are. They're symbolistic. You tell me all these men who committed all the real crimes, none of them ever got prosecuted, Roots. They told a junior diplomat responsible.
I think a greater framework is a reparative justice framework.
Yes, sir.
All those colonial powers who have committed untold amount of atrocities across the colonial and indigenous world have to be held accountable.
Yes.
And just reparation has to be enacted to really and truly deal with the damage that they have done, the wound and the harm that they have done to African economy, African people, family, community, institutions. I think we need to frame it in a bigger, framework, even though we have to continuously work on those micro stuff and those small victories along the way, give inspiration, but we can't lose sight of the bigger vision, which is to hold them accountable for the overall atrocities against our people. And that's why we have to constantly frame the reparative justice in an international way, in a global context, because Patrice was one of many that they actually eliminated along the way. Even amongst Patrice Lumumba administration, they eliminated others who were with him. You understand? So, we love Patrice, but we know he's one of many that was done great injustice to. See it. So, we have to call for a greater justice accountability for what they have done to all of African people.
Well,
Dr. Amos Wilson, so when forgiveness without demanding when you forgive without demanding justice, you reward injustice. And let me tell the people who is Dr. Amos Wilson. So he was a theoretical physicist, psychologist. He was a theoretical psychologist, social theorist, and an author for analyzing the psychological economic and cultural impact of white delusion of supremacy, racism and capitalism, and black psychology and black development. He also stressed that the importance of education that affirms cultural identity, develops critical consciousness, and prepare black children for self-sufficiency, not merely integration into systems that were not designed for their liberation. So yeah, so if when we are calling for forgiveness and we're not demanding justice, we are complicit in rewarding injustice, and we call that tacit complicity. So we have to rise up and weed out the bad weeds anywhere we see them. And these people who are holding up the banner of morality and the global police and telling people what to do and telling people how to live, they are the ones who are trying to set the standards and tell people how to live. Them can't tell we how to live because them used to cut off people head and kick it like a ball. So we don't have no forgiveness for them.
And teeth and gold teeth.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah,
But what my answer still is this, right? Anytime we see a step being made towards recourse of the victims to any injustice, we're happy for that, right?
We want to raise an important point because we know some people have come forward and say African chieftains that traded their own slave to the slave trader for the other goods. So they are responsible and complicit in such a crime. What do you have to say towards that?
One moment. Chat class. One moment. Before we even move to that, I think we need to address where Ras Dada just said a while ago.
Yeah.
When these cases come about, we use them to highlight the overall struggle. We use these cases to open the lens and the wound and to show what is being done. So they become an opportunity for us to teach and to remind this new generation of what happened and to open the lens and let them see this is just a part of an overall conspiracy, a criminality against African people generally.
Prolonged conspiracy, right? So the point I'm really trying to make is that
we not hear you, Dada.
The point we're trying to make is that
okay, if you hear me good then.
The point we're trying to make is that this step, right, by the Belgian people to quote unquote remedy this injustice, we think, even though it's late in the game, we think that it's a necessary step, and we think that it should not only, as Bingy is saying, fall on these junior players, but steps should be taken towards accountability by the sovereign entity of which these players were representing. And why I say that is because of how long this thing happened. As Bingy is highlighting, some of the major players have already passed away, but that does not take blame or culpability from the Belgium administration for this. So even though we cannot gain recourse through a trial of the actual people, but the Belgian people should be held to some legal responsibility or some civil responsibility, and that is the call. So it's not just about sending them to prison, but some civil responsibility should be in play from these things as well.
And when I say the Belgian people, you mean the Belgian government, right?
Right, the Belgian administration.
Right.
Right, the Belgian administration.
And by no means this is very significant, right? For us, as a people who struggling and we know our struggle, this is very important, right?
Yes,
because
sir.
we still see it as justice, right? We see it as, we call it justice because we see an outcome, right? But yet, the man still controls what we call justice, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
our justice is supposed to be immediate, like everybody else's. That is how our justice is supposed to be, but it has not. Even now, we are the only people who have suffered the most on this planet, and yet we still talk about reparations, right? Whereas every other group who went through
Receive it.
something or
Even
the
those who didn't go through anything receive reparation.
have received reparations roots. It's like, when do you wake up as a people? Like, how,
Gosh.
and that's why these things become
Oh
important,
gosh.
because we see men fighting against this injustice throughout history. Black men putting
Mm.
themselves, their lives, their families at
Yes.
risk, right? Just for the betterment and the growth of their own roots, their own people roots.
And
And this had to continue.
that's
Yeah, it
evidence
must.
of a word you always talk about, Bingy.
Yes, I.
Maturity.
Yes, I.
Maturity.
Maturity.
Because in order for a person to decide to take a stand like that, they have to have a very high level of maturity.
And
Because
I want
once
to
you're
add,
thinking outside of the individual and you're
yeah,
thinking along the lines of the collective, you have to have a high level of maturity.
Yes, I. It's
and I want
selflessness.
and I want to show you, say, Patrice Lumumba, they join in with many other African nationalists,
Leaders.
in the
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
early part of the anti-colonial struggle
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
to create this continental-wide movement.
Yes, sir.
Hmm.
So he was very much, and I think it was an all-African conference that
It was
he was a part of in
in
an
Ghana.
early state, and he was a permanent member of that group to move towards this
Yeah,
this this Pan-African vision of Africa.
yeah.
So
Right.
It
he had
happened
that,
in Ghana,
yes,
brother
in Ghana,
Duane.
I think in
Yeah,
Accra.
man. In
Yes,
'58.
yes.
Yeah,
So just
yeah,
let you know that he was very much committed to that vision of a Pan-African state.
yeah. For
Yes.
sure. I remember, Patrice Lumumba responsible for starting the first African Union within the Congo, right? And that was the opposition, right? That was the opposition, that union that he formed for
Right.
Africans, because they didn't have no African Union
Right.
represent Africans.
Yes.
So a very important role. So today we have to highlight, we have to always remember what selflessness really means.
Yes, sir.
And that's
And,
why these people become important, because they're fighting for the betterment of all roots.
and
It's not about
the
themselves.
next thing too, we always use a next word too, distractions. We always use the word
Hmm.
distractions, right?
Mhm.
And when we look and we see this great focus on Iran, Israel, these economic issues at the moment. So
Mhm.
stories like this get swept under the rug,
That's correct.
hide.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So if
Mhm.
if we, if it wasn't for a third class where we can see these things and bring it to the people and say, listen, even though these things are happening in the world,
Mhm.
here is something that is relevant to us as a people, relevant to us in
Yes.
our struggle, in our development, that's
Yes.
going on, which is a move, is not the best move, but it is a move in the right direction. And
Nurture.
you need to be aware of it. And as well, it bring a person like a Patrice Lumumba in the discussion again. Because of this, we can now speak about the contributions of a Patrice Lumumba.
Hmm.
Somebody
And
mic is open.
open.
Is there another window open? 'Cause I can hear another child class in the background. It gone
I
now.
was hearing him before it
Maybe
stopped.
it was
It's
man.
not now.
I listen to YouTube, I mean, I hear that, but go on.
Okay, all right. All right.
Oh, but yeah,
Okay.
man. Hey, when you look at it, the Bridging was only in office for 3 months, and in that 3 months, they
Yeah.
decided that they gotta get rid of this Bridging because what he was saying was so
Not
powerful.
saying, not
And
saying, not saying, doing,
Doing.
doing.
Mhm.
even doing big, but I'm not
Mm,
saying that he didn't get
yeah.
a chance to do a lot because is
Mhm.
is the thing that in his mind where he want
Mhm.
to do them really push back against, because he never really get to do what it is that we really want to do. And it seems like it seems, we have a leader that come and say about things and them end up the door where they made work with do. But this and what Patrice was saying, we were wrapped up a great leader and a human being, Bridging.
That's so much. That's so much them see as a spirit.
And that's why we can't stop.
You know what I said today? As a person who watch a lot of football and love football, right? You know, sometimes you see a goal score, right? You see a goal score in a football. And when the goal score, it's like you say, boy, you did see the goal before the goal happened. Just based on the players, what they make.
Leading up to it.
So when they say a Patrice Lumumba, just the works what I'm see, he might line up and I put, or he might line it up, them see and know, say, yo, this now miss.
Right.
So them say, no, we have to stop this now miss.
Yeah.
You see me? So it's like one of them things that he might deal with the things in the correct order and in placing significance on the correct things. You see me?
And that's why I'm saying, like, they saw his greatness and what he could do, what he could do, and they decided to execute him, right? And this is why we have to push for justice, because we see that it's a thing where they try to do things for all us, but as a people. So that's why when we get a chance, we have to push for justice for these people. You know, say when them try them thing, this is going to happen to you. And we see, and it's not so long ago, black people was being oppressed, and these people are still here, we are talking about Jim Crow, that is 60s, brethren. Them people that are alive still, them you still have pictures, brethren, where people are string up and hang up black people with a big crowd of people there, and the pictures, pictures are there, videos are there, So it's hard for like say, see a man there and put him on trial, but guess what? You know what I mean? That's why we give thanks to Belgium preacher state when them get the man on trial, because over here, so in America, no real.
Belgium now get no credit for that, brother. Them should have done that long time. Them now get no credit for that.
I no real credit, but
them use.
I no credit. We are getting. We are give thanks. Say
right.
And Belgium we are give neither. The people then will push it. You understand? And one people are pushing it up on the side of the road too.
The grandchildren of Lumumba is pushing it hard. I want to also mention that Namibia is also pushing a strong case at the German court for some trial to take place as well, because some great atrocities was committed in Namibia.
It's true.
It's true. Right now, even the heads, they use the head of their leaders as some kind of scientific experiment, are still in the laboratories of many of those labs in Germany, and they are still fighting in court to get those remains to be repatriated back to Namibia to be royally and honorably buried. See it.
Within the culture.
Also, trial surrounding the compensation and the reparative justice part of it is still ongoing. I'm also in contact with a sister from Namibia, and where they actually are in court at the moment, and what they are doing, and many of the Namibian people are saying it is an injustice, because the Namibian government is actually paying the legal fees of the Germans them to defend the German against the people them who are bringing the case against the Germans for proper.
Say that again, brother Delani.
Let me repeat it very slowly. The Namibian government is actually paying the German defense team to defend themselves against the petition or the case that the Namibian people, the victims, the over-hero people them, and the other groups them, because it was several, but the over-heroes, the dominant group them, are bringing the German government to court. And what a lot of people is very upset about and pissed off about is that the government of Namibia is paying the legal fees of the Germans to defend them against the Namibian people.
No man, that needs some more depth in it. Or read this out. Or read this out, Brother Delani.
It reaches so because the people refuse the affected people refuse to give up. But the government has been willing to cooperate with the Germans go along with the German them is making deals with the government, bypassing the affected people which is the people on the ground. They actually have organization. And they call we can do a show on it one day now. I can send you some of the documentation on it. But the people refuse to give up. The descendants of the victims. And they decided to continue to fight the case. They traveled to German, to UK, and in the courts in Namibia. But the Namibian government trying to pretend like play fear and they say, oh, we need to, you know, when you go to a courthouse and them say, oh, we're going to pay for your defense. And the people must say, you can't be paying for the defense for genocidal people.
Right.
It's like a public defender.
So that means the Namibian government is still controlled by the Germans.
Correctly. So that is the position of the people who are underground, the grassroots people who are struggling. They're saying that anything about us without us is against us. Because they're trying to do deals that do not include the people. The people should be at the table. The victim should have representation at the table of any negotiation with Germany.
True. Hey, you know something more I have to say before we shift the reasoning in terms of what
the normal people.
said.
That's the name. Sorry, my brother. Normal people.
Normal,
hero and the normal people.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thumbnail, DR Congo.
Towards what Okavango was saying earlier, right? They saw this threat
headline.
so terrible.
It was an imminent threat.
They saw it so terrible, right? That when they get rid of this man, they melt even in body in a way. That means to say, them no want no trace
of his existence.
Yo. No, because the aim, you know, was to prevent him from becoming a martyr, you know. That was they was actively trying to do it. They don't want him to become a symbol, you know. So they must try to get rid of everything with him, you know. You understand?
It didn't work.
And it didn't work. You know what I mean? He become a icon, Regine. Because
which is greater than a martyr.
Yeah, but he still become a martyr anyway.
Yeah, but an icon as well.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And a symbol for the struggles, Regine. You know what I mean?
And it's a David and Goliath story too, you know. Because when we look at where he's coming from, Patrice Lumumba tribe, for example, is the smaller tribe as well within the Congo, right? It's a small tribe versus the two main tribes who have been ruling or in control forever. It's a love story still, you know, because you see this man rise from this small place, but yet his vision is for all, right? His vision and rising to the top. So they tracking him, you know, because think about it. The man was an accountant for the postal service, then rise, join a party, start the first labor union. So they're looking at his upward mobility, you know. Them are just killing him because, hey, he's saying this for the last 2 years, you know. They looking at his rise, you know, in the face. And when they imprison him, what they imprison him for? Embezzlement, right? Oh, you are stealing from the postal service. All right, cool. You go to jail, you come back, you get deeper in politics, rise to the top, become the first prime minister. What do you think your vision is? Your vision is still Africa for Africans, my country, ruled by my people. Great visionary. So we must be able to promote these ideology now because it's relevant. And like I say, it's yesterday. It ain't no long time. You're talking about 1960. right? You're talking about 1961. You're talking about
Yeah.
it's relevant.
It's not too long ago, Bridget. It's not too long ago.
Historical, like, no, it's relevant. It is within our time. We live in, we talking about it.
And we have to keep a push for them things. Have to keep
Yeah.
a push for them people, man. Child. We are talking about a lot of atrocities right across Africa, the Caribbean, and even in some of these European countries, Bridget. We are talking, but to stay in Africa, people like the Mau in Kenya, them not, we
Yeah.
need justice for them people there. We need people to go up and tell them people there because sometimes them want to give them some little full reparation.
Yes.
Yeah.
When significant,
I want to show you saying now.
you know, the German claims that them give reparation, you know.
Yeah,
Make them
exactly.
remember how much money, you know.
1.3 billion. 1.3 billion them give for
Right.
development.
Them
And
out
guess
of
what?
man.
But the people them reject it. The people, they see the actual people them, the overhero and Nama people them.
Yeah, they reject that.
Them leadership reject it as a sellout. Them call that sellout. A
Mhm.
blood money that. You know, see,
Yeah.
how can you put 1.3 million on the lives of 100,000 people with them slaughter? Remember saying at Dessa they perfected the concentration camp, you know.
Because
they
remember,
use
them
Germany,
brother Delany, remember, say them don't value the lives of these people, you know.
exactly.
True.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
so when them say them a put 1.3 billion, them say them a overpay, you know.
Yeah. And guess what? They seize land them take to, you know, them take land from the people, them
Of course.
kill off them cattle and them
Yeah.
and kill off the people, them.
I
And
watch a documentary, Reggie,
Mhm.
Namibia, and a conflict are going down there, right? The indigenous people want to give, you know what I mean, respect to them dead, them ancestors.
Mhm.
But them ancestors is now on German foreigners' land. Them
Right.
own the land, right? And them
Exactly.
are some places the Germans would allow them to go and pay respect to the ancestors if they feel like, and some places they don't want them on them land.
That is the level of disrespect that is going on.
Virgin,
That is a place to watch. That Namibian case is
Mhm.
something to watch because I think the High Court in Namibia has nullified that agreement with the Germans. I think they recognize that that's a great injustice. But the government decided that $1.3 billion sound like a lot. That's peanut. You're talking about over 100,000 lives.
Mhm.
Doing all manner of experimentation on those people, you know. So by
Mhm.
the time 1940 come
Mutilations,
around,
everything.
they were very ready when it comes to extermination techniques. And that is where they practice most of their
Yeah, man.
wicked extermination techniques
Yes,
was in
sir.
Namibia.
yeah. We just want to put in the context. These are the same Nazi Germans who were murdering the Jewish people. So,
Yes.
so just imagine what they did to the Jewish people is the same thing that they were doing to the
Worse
Namibians,
they did.
African.
right?
Worse they did.
Right.
Worse. They did
And worse because they were actually in Namibia doing that to the Namibian
they did
people.
it unopposed.
And they didn't steal Jewish people land, right? They steal Namibian land.
Right.
You understand? And still now control most of the prime real estate. You know what I mean? In Namibia, same way. You
Exactly.
understand?
Exactly.
Yeah. So all
Exactly.
we talk about Namibia have a bag of diamonds and this and the Germans still
Historically
control it.
significant lands too, as you're saying. Historically significant lands too. Like where you say the
Namibia,
ancestors are.
in perspective for you, you know, so Namibia have a big piece of land. You know, so Namibia population is about the same as Jamaica.
Yeah, man, but it vast. It's a big land because it's a kind of a desert still, you know.
Wallop opportunity there.
Yeah.
Wallop opportunity.
It's a big desert.
And that's why we say Africa is our home because there's a lot of space for us. Anywhere we want to go, from Namibia to Kenya.
Yeah, because the Namib desert stretch from South Africa coming to Namibia.
Yes.
And you know what I mean? So
because after World War II, it was South Africa that got possession of Namibia, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
After
so, but the significant thing with that, the Namib desert is where the diamond is.
Yeah.
You understand? And they said the diamond them there.
So a lot of that opportunity is still on top.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Yes,
you know,
sir.
it's a case to keep an eye on. You see it, and maybe we can do it in the future
Right,
broadcast.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
a deep dive into the
Into
case.
Namibia, yeah.
Yeah, man. I know I did that.
Third class.
That these cases going on because we don't want them cases to go on, and then when the case them finish, we still not get justice, Virgin. Because
Right.
them have tried to give some little pocket money and some little, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some little
Totally.
foolishness, Virgin.
Some chump shit.
But we have to remember it's not only about money in a Rasta.
But yeah, the thing now.
This is not only about money, so we have to clarify these things because you have
Yes,
some
I.
people who are fixated on money
just
whenever
money.
time they hear reparations.
Yes, that's correct. And
So
guess
we have
what?
to make it known
You see the 1.3.
that is not the main focus.
You see the 1.3 billion is over 30 years, you know.
You won't take for pay it out.
If you pay that out, you know. So that is a joke, it's a slap in the face.
Yeah.
You know, see, as a non-starter.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but them
Yes,
still-
so we have
We have to chat class, see? Because as we said, we have some black people who are going to come and some descendants of the wise man who are going to come and said Africans were the one who invented slavery and used humans as currency. Africa owes the world reparation. And them are going to say other people were victims of slavery as well. Them are going to start bringing everybody else tonight. So I want to make that clear that this is not the same. And when I compare it with nothing else, so we want the chat class to address that little point there and make it clear to the people and so we don't under any illusion about what took
about
place.
that, personally, about that, blackface is no real significant to me now. Blackface mean nothing to me. A black art we deal with. And if I have a black art,
Point of information.
you will see the.
Okavanga, before you can tell, let's just set the table, please. Because
Okay.
we have to, when we introduce subjects like these, we have to be very intentional. This is a big subject that should angle with care. So I don't know if now is the right time, because I remember saying we have other matters that we wanted to address. We can go on the record as a little statement, but this subject in itself is a big controversial subject that require an exhaustive deep dive into. You know what I'm saying? Because I have a very long piece of explanation for that too. But we don't want to really divert from the essential, sure, unless you don't want to. But that's when
No, sir, not today.
It'll be time consuming. It will be.
Very time consuming.
Very time consuming.
Let's give them a synopsis, Brother Dulani, because we are going to have people who are coming in the comment section
But that's not what we're talking
and
about.
raise these questions.
Yeah,
But that's not what we're talking about.
Okavonga was going to say address an issue.
No, I just a statement I make because I make people know say so many times we see them like some black people that come and say a bag of things. You know what I mean? Them face black. But you know them art is somewhere they're different color virgin. So I be the black art we are deal with African art, you know what I mean, who have the heart for African people and them African things. You understand? Because if your mind and your heart is somewhere else, virgin, you're lost. We can't help you. Yeah, but we can keep a thing them and check it back on this side, but we are gonna do.
Yes,
you know what I mean? You have black people who just them whole life, you know, is to fight against everything where black people are pushed for. African people are pushed for, you know. Everything no care. Like everybody, if other races look and say, yo, yeah man, this need to happen. You know what I mean? Even this trial for this man right now. Patrick Lumumba, you have black people that say, boy, lock them man alone because it's gone a long time. Black people. You understand? So we can't even want to put attention on them. Virgin, and give them too much highlight because that them want to.
Real talk.
And to kind of add to that, my brother, just to say, on just on the top, I completely reject that premise. And this false argument, this false narrative that they push, and against African people who are fighting for liberation, that we you hear they use the word African enslaved African. as if that's some kind of justification.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that's happening, that has happened to African people. That is the go-to defense that the enslavers them and their descendants use to try to cripple us and to silence us from critiquing enslavement, demanding reparation, and all manner of justice. And I just wanted us outrightly just refute and to reject that premise. I don't accept it.
And what I would like to say on this matter as well, can we just give it a synopsis as Yaga, right?
Brush over it, you know.
If African people enslaved or sold African people into slavery, is that a reason to remove the responsibility that the European people did in their participation to slavery? And I say no. So if we are in the process of dealing with European responsibility to this slave trade, this Atlantic slave trade, then we have to deal with that. When we come to a resolution of that, then we can look towards talking about if there exists, and I will say if, this aspect that people are raising. But that does not remove the responsibility of the Europeans in their role that they played, and therefore that argument is not required at the moment. It is not in the correct time. What we're dealing with now is we're dealing with the European responsibility in the African slave trade. That's what we are
And,
doing.
and I want to say that there are always distractions, as we discussed before, right? And people who typically ask these questions is because they're part of that distraction, right?
Right.
But for Africans who ask these questions, we realize that it's self-hate as well, right?
True.
It's self-hate. It's real self-hate. That's when you don't know yourself. But what I deal with is Black liberation, Black consciousness, Black redemption, Black solidarity. That's what we deal with.
Yes, sir.
That's what we focus on. So the distraction, the distractors will always be there. We can't really pay mind to them, because we have a work to do.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
We're
we have a
doing
work
it.
to do. That's why
We're
we
doing it.
pushing forward
We're
all the
not paying
while.
no mind, but we just want to nip it in the bud
Yes.
so that these detractors don't raise these points as a discussion and look into themselves and start asking themselves some serious questions before they make these points again, because that is the first thing that they use in their defense all the time.
And we have to equip our school system to deal with this issue. There's one other thing that we have to repair the narrative of our history. We have to repair that, and we have to be equipped with information, evidence, and sources to refute them, because they don't use that same brush to talk about European conflicts. When they talk about Europe, you don't hear them talking about European war Europeans, a European enslaved Europeans, a European put European in chambers, gas chambers. You don't hear that kind of talk. Them say the Germans did that to that, and the French did that to that nation. They don't see Africa as a diverse place where you got Yoruba and Igbo and the Fulani and Hosa and this conflict. You never have a situation where a mother enslave her daughter, our father enslaving cousin, our Yoruba man enslave another Yoruba man, our Igbo enslave another Igbo. It's always a war and a conflict between different groups that has been exploited.
Right.
And I want
But
to
like we say, we don't want to go so deep in the reasoning.
I'll move
We
away.
don't want to go so deep in the reasoning today.
Yeah, so
we
there's so
are
much
say, we are saying,
deeper. All right.
people go raise that point, but we are saying,
we're ready.
You have a right to raise your point.
Yes.
But what we are dealing with is the European responsibility in this atrocity at this moment.
That's
so when
correct.
we finish dealing with that, then we can deal with anything else.
Yes.
Right. African goddess, the UK said the UK admitted what they did in Kenya and paid compensation. And yes, I know that.
Yes,
But I am saying that no one went to jail. I don't know of anyone that went to jail for those things. You know what I mean?
Right.
Any official went to jail. And we as Africans, we have to push for them thing there. And when I listen to what them I say, we are pushed for
Justice must be served.
Justice. We want our justice. You understand? You can't just give away you want, you give one little money and say you're sorry. No, we don't want that.
Hush money. You call that hush money.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with that law firm named Lee Day. And that was a very wicked agreement. That agreement was just terrible. That's terrible agreement. I think
It's
it was
terrible
about
on our part, but it's beneficial on theirs.
yeah. The lawyers them got the bulk of the money on that case.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It is sad. And I think even CARICOM I try and use them, and a lot of people is opposed to them to even using Lee Day because that the agreement was a joke, non-starter.
Sorry.
And they look at monument and bill in a Nairobi there. You know,
Right.
it's a joke. That's probably the best thing that come out of the monument when them bill, to be honest with you. You know what I'm saying? But the money part is a joke, that disrespect. Disrespect.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
We have to give them our own justice. We can't make them dictate the terms of the justice. But we are getting. You understand? We have to say, okay, this will happen, with this we want to us.
Yes.
Yeah, them want to dictate the terms of, you know what I mean, what them are going to pay.
Yes.
No, sir, we can't go so.
Yes.
We have to be the jury and the judge.
Yeah, man. So we do give thanks to the reasoning. We do give thanks to the moment. We give thanks for the opportunity where we can come speak of this small but much needed step, you know, towards correcting this great travesty. You know, we want to remind you to like, share, and subscribe. We want to remind you to tell your friends about the trad class so they can become a part of it. Remember to hit the notification bell so that you will be notified every time we upload any trad class in the future. Give thanks, Yaga. Give thanks, Brother Dulani. Give thanks, Okavango. Give thanks, Bingi.
Rise up.
Yeah,
Yes,
man.
sir.
Give
Thanks
thanks,
for
I'm Ras Dada. And this has been another Perfect Balance chat class. We're speaking about Patrice Lumumba
Rise up,
and
King.
the steps being made currently to remedy the injustices that took place in his untimely death. You know, give thanks.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man. You know, say, we are the difficult and the hard work around here. So we ask the people if them connect with the thing to share it with ones and ones who are of like mind, you know?
Aye.
Over and out.